Sometimes I contemplate the Sabian symbols, and I contemplate aphorisms as well, and things that I come across, and I do a little meditation, and I come up with a new way of seeing things. Our spiritual development depends upon that, a new way of seeing things. We have to change our perceptions. Anyway, this morning's contemplation is the Sabian symbol, the two lovebirds sitting on a fence, Aquarius 15. And I thought about the image here, and I'm concerned with the image itself rather than the interpretations that Jones and Rudyard have given. So just taking the image that Elsie Wheeler says she saw, two lovebirds sitting on a fence, what does that mean to me? Well, it means to me that there's, and I take the two lovebirds immediately into the human realm, there's one and another, and they're deeply in love, and they like to be in love, and they don't want to consider anything else. They formed for themselves a bubble. And it's joyful, and it's everything they want, and it excludes that which they don't want. And whether we know or not, whether we realize it or not, all of us live in our own bubbles, which we create for ourselves. And your bubble is all that you know, all that you perceive, all that you experience, all that you think and feel and see and do. That's your bubble. And it is limited. It might be very expanded indeed compared to people around you, but it's limited in the sense that you have no relationship whatever with the other 8 billion people on the planet. You've got your own 100 or 300 or so people in your life, and the rest don't exist as far as you're directly concerned. So this bubble that we create is our life. This is how we create a life. And a part of that comes from the media and television programs and movies that we watch and so on. We allow input into our system from all sorts of sources. So we can actually know of horrible things going on in other parts of the world. And we can buy into that. There's a lot of people that have got grim ideas about what's coming because of their conspiracy theories and so on. And you can't persuade them it's different. And they're fixed on that idea. That's their bubble, that there's this reality that's dark, and they have to sort of survive it. And it's just like, well, why would you want to have such a bubble? Why do you live in that world which has got fearsome people trying to get you? And if it's not the conspiracy theorists' ideas of lizards and bankers and so on, it's another version. You know, it's your boss not being a decent person, or it's your partner not understanding your feelings, or your children not being containable, or whatever. You've made up this image of what life is, and you act it out as though it were true. Well, it isn't true. It's only got some truth in it, and that is entirely subjective. It's your subjective version of what life is, but it's not true in any sense, of any objective sense at all. So, these two lovebirds have made this bubble for themselves of love and joy and self-containment. They don't need anything outside, and they don't consider the world to be a dark place. And that sounds quite pleasant. It's maybe not totally enough, because a world without challenges and obstacles would become a bit dull. But nevertheless, I mean, the principle is very valid. So how do we create such a bubble for ourselves? And it lies in what you give your attention to. Whatever you focus your attention on is attracted to become your reality. So if you give your attention to the darker sides of life and all the problems and the things that make you feel powerless, then you will attract them. But if you give your attention to love and joy and happiness and beauty, and you play music a lot, and you go for walks a lot, and you do gardening, and you only speak to nice people and so on, then that's your world. And the rest of it is just a background darkness you can see in your peripheral attention, but you don't give it focus. I'm not saying deny it. You have to look at it and just notice it's there and then look away. Don't feed it. Because whatever you feed with your attention grows. So if you want a life of the type that the two lovebirds seem to want, then you need to feed that. And that means you choose to speak in a certain tone. You offer gestures of appreciation to those people in your life. You notice beauty and you slow down to appreciate beauty. You smell the roses. You give your life the attention that it needs. So if you think about a life of joy and love and beauty, then it needs you to appreciate those things fully, creatively, energetically, consistently. That's your life. Especially if you're very involved in a family, this will matter a lot. You've had children, and they must be primary for a period of time. During the time when they need your attention as parents, mostly, then that's what you've decided to do. So you've got to give your attention to your children. If you want the family to be an important part of your life atmosphere, you can't treat it casually and expect it to respond in the way that it would do if you treated it deeply. So we give attention to whatever it is in our life that we value, and that's how we build the bubble of our lives. Now, it would be foolish to think that it's that simple. We're going to be challenged in that. There's always going to be pressures calling us away. You know, there's an urgent job that only you can do, says the boss. And if you don't do that, you won't get enough money to live your life out properly, says somebody else, and so on. There's all these pushings and pullings that are trying to persuade us to be different in our focus of attention than our policy of promoting joy and love. And we have to deal with these distractions and these contradictions, these conflicts. We have to deal with them. And so we deal with them, and then we turn away our attention. So if the boss says, look, you must come, this is urgent, I'm sorry, I've got a higher priority today. I remember a time when I was working for a company that was right on the brink of going bust, and I was an accountant then. And the boss said, you have to come in tomorrow and have this meeting. And it was Saturday the next day. And I said, but it's Saturday. I'm not working Saturdays. But you must tomorrow, make an exception. I said, well, I play rugby. He said, well, you can give up your rugby for the day. I said, well, no, I can't. I'm a team member. I'm not going to let my team down. And anyway, I don't want to. I prefer rugby to accountancy. And he was so angry with me, you know. But no, I'm not having it. My world is centered around certain things that I value more than other things. And when push comes to shove, then you have to push your agenda. It's like with my gran. She created this wonderful world for me, for her grandchildren, which was based on the fact that there was always the feeling of warmth and abundance in her house. The fire was always lit. The food was always crammed with lovely things to eat. Her attention was always there for us. Everything about what she did was wholesome and good. And my memory of that time of my life is still with me. A deep and profound memory of having enjoyed wholesome abundance at one point in my life, and I remember it very profoundly. And when she died, and I visited my granddad, that warmth was no longer there. Certainly he had love, but he was an austere man, and the fire was never lit, and the food was never on the table. It was just minimal, and he was loving, but it wasn't grand. You know, she made that bubble of joy that I associate with my childhood. So we have to fight for it sometimes and exclude those people who don't bring that feeling. And we have to build our life on the feeling that we want. And if we have thoughts that enter our head that draw us into the world of violence and nastiness and conflict and jealousy and bitterness and blame, all of these things that don't make us feel good, if we're given those thoughts, we have to exclude them. And the best way to do that is not to argue and proclaim. The best way is just to quietly pray. Just say, God bless you, to the thought. Just imagine that the thought is a person, God bless you, and turn away. Or a mantra, I use a mantra. Bismillah, I say. And if I'm thinking something like, oh, I don't like that person, I want them, oh, Bismillah. And I just change my way of thinking, my thoughts immediately. Now, the final thing to understand is that if we've built such a life of joy and peace and tranquility and beauty, we have to have faith that it's a valid path and trust that it is sustainable. Work out the problems bit by bit, but we have to trust that our focus of attention invested in the good and the lovely and the sweet and the joyful, that is a valid thing to do with the attention that we have. It'll work. We have to have that trust, have to have faith that beauty works and joy works and love works. Like the two lovebirds, they don't doubt that it works for them. They have faith.